All right, well, I guess we might as well get started. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the EV Experience starring Pete Kane. This is a production of the League, the Westwood-Walpole-Dedham League of Women Voters. The League promotes voter education and community involvement. So if you want to learn more about the League of Women Voters, you can go to our website. Just Google Westwood League of Women Voters or Walpole League of Women Voters or Dedham League of Women Voters. We always welcome new members from 16 and up. And this is something we've been trying to do for quite a while. I'm the convener for the group, so we're always open to having new members. Our speaker tonight is Peter Kane. He lives in Westwood. He lives in a zero net energy house. In fact, I think he creates more energy at his home than he actually consumes. Pete is an electrical engineer and he's very involved with town government. And he teaches environmental science at the Norfolk Aggie. So did I forget anything, Pete?
Nope. That's fine.
Okay, and in case I didn't say it already, I think I did, but we are recording this session. We'll be posting the recording on the League's website. Okay, so if you have any friends that would like to learn about it, they can get their information there. About that. All right, so, Pete, go ahead.
I'm going to share my screen. Hey, can everyone see that?
Yep.
Good. All right, so here's what I'd like to talk about. First, I'd like to go over the different models that are currently available and also talk about some of the new ones that are coming out soon within the next year or two. We'll talk about some of the advantages, what's good about them, some of the disadvantages, and I'll spend a little time talking about the financial aspects such as tax credits, Massachusetts rebates, things like that. I'll talk about charging stations because if you buy an electric car, you're also going to have to probably put in a charger for it. I'll talk about range and then future trends. Where are things going? So let's start with the different, first of all, I guess a little history. This is a Geo Metro that I converted from gas to electric back in the 1990s. It had a bunch of lead acid batteries, used Selectria components, motor controller were from Selectria. And it was terrible. Back then, the batteries were just awful. The range, particularly in the winter time, would drop dramatically. So electric cars have come quite a ways. They're much better now. I've had a couple hybrids. This is a CRZ Insight. We just recently traded for a Chevy Volt, which I'll talk more about. All right, so what's available? What are the different types of electric cars? There's hybrids, plug-in hybrids, and pure electric. I'm going to focus on pure electric, but for some of you, maybe a plug-in hybrid would be better. The difference between a plug-in hybrid and a regular hybrid is plug-ins have larger batteries that can be recharged by plugging them into the wall. Typically, they can go anywhere from 20 to 40 miles on pure electric before the gas engine kicks in. Disadvantage is they're pretty complex. They have a complete internal combustion drivetrain as well as electric drivetrain. So they're Plus they still burn fossil fuels. Pure electric are much simpler. We'll get into that in a minute, but the amount of parts and the maintenance associated with pure electric is much smaller. So pure electric models, starting with Chevy Volt. This has been out a couple years now. The price on these has dropped dramatically. There's all kinds of deals now. You can basically buy one for like $22,000, or you can lease one for about $150 a month. Hyundai makes a SUV called the Kona. They also make a sedan called the Ioniq. Kia also makes an electric car now. Nissan Leaf, BMW. This is also a Kia Soul. This is the Jaguar I-Pace. Of course, Tesla Model S, Model X, Model 3, and the Model Y. Audi has one, it's called the e-tron. Mini Cooper. This is the Porsche Taycan. And then a number of manufacturers have announced models coming out soon within the next year or two. This is the Mustang. This is the Volkswagen i4. Volkswagen's also making a small version called the i3, but I don't think it's coming to the US. It's just for Europe. Tesla Roadster. This is the Hummer electric version. Mercedes is supposedly coming out with some models too. Ford announced the F-150 electric version for 2022. This is a company called Rivian that's also working on electric pickups. Of course, the Tesla Cybertruck. This one's interesting. This is a new model called the Kandi, K-A-N-D-I-E, from China, with a price after rebate of under $10,000. All my students at Norfolk Aggie want to buy one of those. Okay, plug-in hybrids, I'll just fly through these. There's a lot of companies making these now. The Prius Prime, the Chevy Volt is discontinued, but there's certainly used ones available. BMW, Chrysler, Ford, Hyundai, I think Honda. This is Porsche. Subaru's got one, Volvo's got them. So there's a lot of different models now to choose from. I personally think that pure electric's the way to go. One thing that you should know, if you buy an electric car, you're gonna have to put in a charging station if you wanna be able to charge it at home. Typically, well, there's three different types. There's level 1, which is you can plug into a standard 110 volt outlet. The charging rate is for the Chevy Volt that we have is only about 4 miles of range per hour. So it's pretty slow. Then there's level 2, which operates off 240 volts, same as your dryer or your stove typically. And the one we bought looks like this. It's called the Juice Box. I tapped into the same circuit that runs our electric dryer. I put it in myself. It's pretty simple, but I imagine most people would hire an electrician. This costs around $600 plus another $100 or so for the Romex cable and other electrical stuff. I imagine if you had an electrician install it, it would be considerably more. And then what's called level 3 chargers that are much faster. Typically, these are DC. They're more commercial. This is what you'd see at rest areas on highways and places like that, much faster. I think Tesla can now, they have a 350 kilowatt charging system that can give you about 100 miles in 10 minutes or so. This is what the Tesla Superchargers look like. They have quite a network now all over the United States, actually all over the world. This is a typical charging station in like a parking garage or an MBTA station. This is the Tesla network. So basically, you can drive cross country now and not run out of electricity. Jan and Claire, you guys did a trip to New York, didn't you, in your Tesla?
We did. I don't know if Jan wants to take this, but if you chime in else, you want to take this, Jan?
Okay. Just I'll let's see, so people can see what I guess my video doesn't work. Oh well. Yeah, sure. Yeah, we drove from our home in Westwood to Ithaca, New York, and we have a Tesla Model 3. It's not the long range version. It's the basically when it's the capacity is full, it's about 225, 230 miles on the battery. Actually, that's a tad misleading. It's really only about 210 miles, because if you get down to 20 miles on the battery, the car starts doing various safe things to try to conserve power. So it's really about 210. But in any case, the experience of taking the Tesla is fairly straightforward, and we both learned a lot doing the experience. You can actually use the console to plan the trip, and the console will automatically route you through a route that has superchargers on it. That's built into the navigation, and it will tell you how long you're going to be stopping at each of the superchargers on the way. You have some choice. I mean, you can take different routes and do different things. I was astonished at two things. One, there's a supercharger station in Oneonta, New York, that we use. We've supercharged down in Dedham at the Tesla place and other places, and those are 75 kilowatt chargers. The one in Oneonta is like 150 kilowatts, and basically it's just like, it was just amazing to see how quickly that thing could charge up. And the other thing that I thought that we learned is the route planner on the Tesla, because they want to get you there in the shortest amount of time, will recommend that you do not charge fully at each station. So, they'll if you're on the way, it will have you charge as much as you need to get to the next charger. And that saves time on the trip. And at the end, of course, we charged up. But it was pretty good. Claire, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, it's quick. It's just amazing. These high-speed chargers just pour the electricity in. It only takes less than an hour to go from near 0 to 200. It's just incredible. So and you can just get out and stretch your legs, have some lunch, whatever. So that's.
Okay, thanks. There's a app for your phone called PlugShare, which it just is for locating charging stations, not just Tesla, but any charging station you can find on this app. Okay, I'd like to talk about some of the financial aspects of owning electric cars. So there's a federal tax credit, but only up to 7,500, but not for all cars. The way it was written to incentivize manufacturers, it's only up to the point where they've sold 200,000 cars. And so far, Tesla and General Motors have exceeded that number. So there are no longer tax credits for those vehicles, but there's lots of other cars that do still qualify. I'll show you the list in a minute. Also, Massachusetts has a program called More EV, where you can get up to $2,500 back for some cars. Again, not all cars, but some. There's also a federal tax credit for EV charging equipment. You can get up to $1,000 back on that. There's an organization called Green Energy Consumers Alliance that has group buying discounts. I'll show you that in a second. And just so you know, there's some amazing deals out right now through Quirk Chevrolet, especially if you have a Costco membership. So I'll pull up those websites so you can see. Let me just scroll through some of this stuff. Another aspect of electric cars is low maintenance. Typical cars have lots of parts, and a lot of those parts are associated with the engine. You think about all the things that engines have to have, like alternators and fuel injection systems for fuel, valves and pistons and oil pumps and belts, and they're extremely complex, lots of parts, whereas electric cars are much simpler. Typically, the number of moving parts, like motor and drivetrain, might be between 2 and 7 parts. They're much less maintenance. This is the sort of the skateboard. Most electric cars look like this. This is actually a Tesla, where the batteries tend to sit on the floor under the seats, motor either in the front or back or both. And very simple. I think there's only one electric car, which is the Porsche, that actually has a transmission. Most of these are just single speed. The torque curves on these motors is very flat. You just don't need a transmission. The other aspect is safety. Having this rigid battery container underneath the passenger compartment is great for safety. Teslas have the highest safety ratings you can get. Perfect 5-star. It's just really amazing. Plus, very low center of gravity, so they handle well. This just shows the really strong battery pack that sits under the seats. There are some trends that I think you should know about if you're considering an electric car. One is there's lots of manufacturers are working on electric cars now, so there's going to be a lot more to choose from within the next year or two. I think General Motors said they're going to have 23 electric models by 2024. Likely prices will come down. Most of the cost in an electric car is the batteries, and battery technology is improving rapidly. Prices of lithium-ion batteries is coming down. The latest Tesla public meeting they had, they outlined all the work that they're doing around batteries to get the cost down. And if half of what they're attempting to do comes to fruition, we should see some pretty good reductions in the price of these batteries. Another thing that's happening is a lot of cities are talking about banning gas and diesel engines due to climate change concerns and also air pollution concerns. Another development is Tesla's really leading the way is self-driving cars. And, this whole concept of transportation as a service where you don't actually own a car, you just summon a car when you need a ride and one comes and picks you up and takes you away. So again, as battery prices fall, there's going to be new markets such as home energy storage, and that's going to lead to more demand, more manufacturing. So it's this positive feedback loop that's driving costs down. This just shows how lithium-ion battery prices have come down. Okay, I'd like to show you a couple websites. Let's start with this is one called Plug-in America. Pretty good website. It talks about reasons for going for electric cars. Affordability, the maintenance costs and the operating costs of electric cars is significantly less than regular gas cars. You don't have to have oil changes, typically air filters, fluid changes. It's just way less maintenance. Even brakes last longer because of the regenerative braking aspect of electric cars. Air quality, obviously there's big environmental benefits for electric cars. There's no tailpipe emissions. And if the electricity is generated using renewables, we end up with a sustainable system. Even with electricity generated through natural gas or other ways that it still comes out cleaner than burning fossil fuels in an internal combustion engine. The average efficiency of most internal combustion engines is terrible. Most of the energy ends up as heat, roughly around 20 to 25% efficiency for most engines, whereas an electric motor can be up to 90% efficient. So it just uses energy much more efficiently. The other thing is convenience. We found that my wife Pam is driving the Chevy Volt to work each day in Needham, and we only have to plug it in really once a week, and we can do it at home. We don't have to go to a gas station. We don't have to worry about changing the oil or anything like that. So it's actually quite convenient. And performance, I'm sure Jan and Claire could speak to this. These cars are really fast. The acceleration's amazing because of the characteristics of electric motors. They have a lot of torque at low RPM. So they're fun to drive, they're quiet, they're smooth. They're great. So that's called Plug-in America. I'm trying to access what's on my screen, but The Zoom keeps blocking it. Oh, geez. Okay, this is the tax form. It's called 8911. This is for the tax credit for charging stations. So you can get up to $1,000 back. I believe it's 30% or $1,000, whichever is less, to pay for installing a charging station. This is a website you should know about. It tells you about the federal tax credits for electric vehicles. So if we filter out just electric. So this lists all the electric vehicles that the federal government will send you a tax credit for. General Motors is not eligible because they've sold over 200,000. Same thing with Tesla. We get down to Tesla. But all of these other vehicles are eligible. The amount for pure electric is $7,500. If you're interested in plug-ins, the rebate can be less. It depends on the size of the battery. So for instance, if you go to the Toyota Prime, the Prius plug-in hybrid, you can only, you get 2,500. The Prius Prime, you can only get 4,502 because that's, it doesn't have a big enough battery to get the full 7,500. So, so that's that. The other thing you should know about is the Green Energy Consumers Alliance. So this is a group buying discount deal where they pool a number of people to get a better price on cars. So if you go to their website, you can click on this. You can either look at new or pre-owned. We'll browse cars, and it lists all the cars that that are available. So for instance, Chevy Volts. So what they give you the manufacturer's suggested retail price, the federal tax credit, in this case it's zero, Massachusetts state rebate, which is still valid. And so you can actually buy a Chevy Volt for $20,995 if you go through this deal. There's they also do it for the Hyundai Kona. That's $26,497. There's the Nissan Leaf Plus, $22,000. And there's a lot of good information here. It tells you the battery size, how many, what the range is. In this case, for instance, Chevy Volt's 259 miles per full charge. It's the other thing that allows you to compare is the efficiency. So it tells you how many miles per kilowatt hour. So that's, for this Volt, it's 3.45. I think Teslas are the most efficient. They're quite a bit higher, I believe.
Our Tesla doesn't get that high. I don't know if that's under perfect conditions, but in practice, our Tesla gets 2 to 3 miles per. Oh, wait a minute. I think I'm thinking in reverse here. Never mind. Yeah, it is better. It is better, you're right. Sorry.
Here, let's see, Tesla Model S, that is 3.22. Actually, I thought it was better. So I would urge anyone that's really interested in buying an electric car to check out this website and try to, take advantage of these deals. That's that. This is the website for the More EV, which is the Massachusetts rebate program for electric vehicles. So again, they have a list of vehicles. So these are all the vehicles that they'll give you a rebate for. These are the battery electric vehicles. And then these are fuel cell. I don't imagine anybody's ready yet to buy a fuel cell vehicle. And these are plug-in hybrids. Plug-ins, they're only offering 1,500 versus 2,500 for the pure electric versions. The way this works is after you buy the car, within 3 months, you have to fill out some forms and send it in. And then they approve it. And then within 90 days, you get a check. I'm still waiting. It's been about a month since we bought our car, but I haven't seen any checks yet. So right now, this is off the Quirk website, Quirk Chevrolet down in Braintree, I think it is, or Quincy. So you can lease a Chevy Volt for $95 a month for 36 months. That's with $2,000 down payment, which is, I think, surprises a lot of people that you can actually get an electric car, and actually a pretty decent electric car for that much money. I think the Teslas, I'm not sure exactly. I think it's around $400 or $500 a month for a Tesla. This is much cheaper. It's not as good a car, but it is electric. Okay. Edmunds has a great website that talks about the tax credits and kind of details about what you need to know and how it works. Again, these are tax credits. So if you don't owe $7,500 to the federal government, you're not going to get the whole $7,500. If you, let's say you only own $5,000, they'll only give you part of that $7,500. So again, this is a pretty good website for understanding how that works. Let's see, I think that's I think that's everything I wanted to cover. On here are these websites. So I can send, if anybody wants a copy of this presentation, I'd be happy to send it out.
Pete, did you mean to stop screen sharing?
No.
Because we haven't seen anything for a couple of what I assume were slides.
I'm sorry.
Um,
Try to get back.
And maybe we can post the slides up on the league site along with the video. Virginia would, Virginia's our webmaster. So
I'm trying to.
Looks like she's saying yes. You're muted still, Virginia. But
I'm trying to get back to the main screen so I can share it.
Oh,
you go down to the bottom. Click
John,
on
so
the
I couldn't
green
unmute.
square. Oh, hi, Virginia. So,
I
so
can see what I can do.
Um,
okay, it'll
gonna-
just be a link. That'd be excellent because there's been a lot of interest, and I know a few people couldn't make it tonight. So
Claire, I'm gonna exit out and then come back in because I can't get back into sharing. It's not lit.
let me just check and make sure you're still a co-host. No, you are still a co-host. Okay, well, I'll let you back in.
Wait a minute. I think I just figured it out. Okay.
There, okay.
All right. So did you guys see this? I'm not sure at what point it stopped sharing. Did you see this on the Massachusetts More EV program?
Yes. Yeah, it was just the last probably couple of web pages that you were showing.
Okay. This was the Quirk Chevrolet website. It just
I
talks
didn't see-
$95 lease for Chevy Volts. This was the Edmunds electric vehicle tax credits. Great website to explain how that works. I think that's it. Let me go back to presentation. So far, our experience with the Chevy Volt has been excellent. Pam likes it. It's smooth, it's quiet, it's fast, it's safe. You don't have to go to the gas station, which is great. We did drive it in the snow at Freak Storm. We had Halloween. It seems to handle very well in the snow. I think mainly because it's it's heavy, and we just it's just nice to be able to hop in the car and go somewhere without thinking about what's coming out the tailpipe. We usually charge it on Saturday. If it's a sunny day, like on a Saturday or Sunday, we'll charge it then because our solar panels will generate the electricity, more than enough electricity to charge it. So we don't even have to take electricity from the grid if it's a sunny day to charge it. It's nice getting the federal tax credits. Well, we didn't actually get it for this car, but we will be getting it for the charging equipment and also the $2,500 rebate from the state of Massachusetts is pretty nice. The range, we haven't really gone on any long trips. We've been into Logan Airport a couple times. We drove it back from Quincy when we bought it. It's great on the highway. It's it's just like driving a regular car. We do have a cottage up in Maine, which is almost exactly 200 miles from the house. But we're a little bit leery about taking it up there, especially in the winter time, because range definitely goes down if you run the heater or the defroster. It's got an electric resistance defroster and heater, so that definitely impacts the range. But for what Pam uses it for, going back to work in Needham, it's really been a great vehicle. So far, it's been Very satisfactory. I thought at this point I'd open it up to questions. And please, Jan and Claire, feel free to speak up because you have probably more experience than anyone with in this group.
Yeah, so just a moment, want to make a couple of comments that at least in our experience of driving a Tesla, we rented or leased a Volt, not a Bolt, a Volt from, before. So that was our first entry into the world of electrical. The Volt was interesting. Unfortunately, it's discontinued now, but the Volt was interesting because although it had a gas engine, it literally all the gas engine did was it was hooked to an electrical generator, and so essentially it essentially drove the electricity into the battery, which was a little bit simpler than a full up drivetrain into the thing. So I thought that was clever, but as I said, unfortunately they discontinued that. The driving, I'll let Claire talk about this as well. So. To be fair, you need to also understand that my experience is colored by the fact that I'm a tech, very geeky tech wonk kind of guy. So whenever I'm dealing with a computer or something, that's a great place for me to be. So I don't mind computers doing things for me and stuff like that. The experience of learning to drive the Tesla is different. It is very different. It's not a huge learning experience, but it is. I've described it before that in a Tesla, at least, it's like you're driving with a partner rather than driving the car, because the Tesla is doing things to optimize energy, and it's also doing things to optimize safety at the time. But I guess the biggest thing that people get used to is the one pedal driving thing. So essentially, if you let up on the accelerator, and this is common in most EVs as far as I understand, essentially it decelerates and it uses this regenerative braking that Pete referred to before, where it's getting back the energy, the momentum from the car and taking that back into the battery. But it also slows the car down. And you get good enough at this. What happens is you almost hardly ever touch. There is a brake, of course, but you hardly ever use the brake on the car. And then for longer range things, there was another EV session that we were part of some time ago that a woman in that session who also had an EV talked about this as well. One of the things that we did when we were in Ithaca, I don't know if anybody is familiar with Ithaca, but it's down in the bottom of a glacial trench where there's a lake. And if you want to climb out of Ithaca to go anyplace, you have to climb up this big hill to go to a plateau. And we took a trip to where I used to live up there, down there. And the interesting thing is that we used a fair amount of energy, coming up the hill. But on the way back, we essentially get it all back. And so there was the net amount of energy that we spent taking this trip was amazingly small, because it was lost to the gravity, and then it came back again. And of course, there's some inefficiency, there's some loss, of course. But there's a woman in this other session that we were in who basically reported taking her EV to the mountains of Vermont, and it was uphill one way and downhill the other. And she said that on the way back that she didn't have to charge at all because of the capturing that energy. The other thing is that it has a lot, as I said, the Tesla has a lot of things that it will do. It has a radar on the front, so if you are approaching a car in front of you or some obstacle faster than the car thinks you can do safely, it will let you know loudly that there is this obstacle ahead of you, and you should do something about this. And so that's it. So I'll let Claire talk about more, because she'll talk about it more from the perspective of an ordinary, or of a real person, not me.
Yes, definitely more ordinary. And I have to say, it is good to have Jan around in general, but for his computer expertise as well, because there are some things, there's a learning curve for sure. I mean, learning to drive it, I'd say it took me a couple of weeks to get comfortable with some of the differences but mostly it's just learning to let the car do its thing because it's a better driver than I am in a lot of ways. I think it's a really good thing that these things didn't come out when I was in my 20s and 30s and I was a much more aggressive driver, because you can really, you hit that accelerator and phew, it's very responsive. It's a lot of fun to drive. I really enjoy it. And I take it to the Cape sometimes. My daughter lives in Yarmouth. And if I just go down and come back, I can do it without having to charge. Of course, if I'm overnight and driving around, then I have to stop, make one stop for, to just pump it up a little bit. But it doesn't take very long. So it's a very convenient car, and I'm so happy that we bought it. And someone had asked about the charging too. We have a Siemens charger, which we use an adapter for the Tesla, because the Tesla has a different shaped plug than the standard EV. I think there are several different kinds. But we got the tax credit. I forget how much it cost, but we hired an electrician. So that's what I know. And it's excellent. It works great.
One thing that's different from driving our Bolt is there's actually a paddle on the steering wheel. I don't think Tesla has this, but I think other electric cars have it where.
Oh, yeah, the Volt had that too, yeah.
Yeah, if you want like extra regenerative braking, you would tap this paddle or hold this paddle that's off the steering wheel. And it really decelerates the car. It's almost like touching the brakes. It has conventional regenerative braking as well, where you just take your foot off the accelerator and the power goes back into the battery. But this sort of boosts the regenerative braking so that you get more. And I will say driving the Chevy Volt is quite a bit different, I would say, than a Tesla, in that it's not as sophisticated, put it that way. It's anybody could get into a Chevy Volt and drive it day one without any training or anything like that. It's very similar to just driving any other car. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles that a Tesla has. For some people, that's good. Other people, want that capability.
How long does the battery last and cost to replace? Okay, I guess we should take a look at the chat and just make sure we cover all the questions that have been asked.
So from what I understand, batteries last pretty much the life of the car. I mean, John, you probably can answer this better, but I have not heard of any electric car owners having to change out their batteries before like 200,000 or 300,000 miles. I've heard that Tesla's batteries, they're working on batteries that will last 1 million miles.
Yeah, so some of the early Tesla models had some battery issues dealing with the packaging, but by the time that they've evolved through the Tesla 3s of 2018, they've standardized on a certain packaging. Going forward, the Teslas are going to have a little bit of a form factor change for their batteries, as I understand it, because Tesla originally was thinking of that rather than recharging, they were going to have an option where you could pull your Tesla into a place, and they would change out your entire battery pack and substitute a charged battery pack for you. And so the bottoms of these cars were set up to possibly support that they could drop the plate off, take the battery out, put another battery in, and put the plate back on. And that they were accommodating. They've given up on that though. They're just using this Supercharger network now. I think that the nameplate range or a lifetime for our battery on our standard Tesla 3 is about 400,000 miles, 450,000 miles on our battery. dealers say that you probably get more out of it than that. It's just that that's what they pretty much warranty on the battery. And like Peter was saying before, the other thing about the cars is that a lot of things on them, I was very surprised actually when I learned this about the Tesla 3. The brakes are warranted for 100,000 miles on it, you know, because you tend not to use the real brake, the brake so much, so that's why they last longer.
Yeah, hardly ever to have to touch the brake.
The thing that's, I would say that as Pete suggested, the thing that I think would be most intimidating about the Tesla for most people, at least the Tesla 3, would be the options. So when you get into the Tesla, you have these screens in the Tesla that allow you to personalize this thing to drive in any bunch of ways, all the way from how the cruise control works to some of the safety features on it, about how many car lengths it will follow in cruise control, to whether you want it to, like, if it thinks you're going to crash, whether you want it to take over control and steer the car for you, because that's you don't have to have that, but you can choose to do that if you want. It has automatic braking, but if it thinks you're going to hit something and you haven't noticed, it will not let you hit it. It will basically slow down and if necessary steer around something. But again, that's an option. So there are all these choices that you have on the screens. I can see that could be possibly a little overwhelming for people to deal with on these vehicles. I actually saw a Tesla do that. I was running along Dover Road one day and somebody was coming down with a Tesla S, and the driver did not notice me, but the Tesla did. And basically took the Tesla, and I could tell because she was oncoming and she was totally surprised that this car just like you know, swerved out and in, you know, without her doing anything, basically. So I mean, it can be good. I'm trying not to scare anybody, but there is a level of complexity there.
I would like to invite people to unmute if they would like to, because there's few of us, I think, that we can kind of have a conversation. So if you want to ask in person, that would be fine. But first, Pete, you were going to say something. I'm sorry.
One of the questions on the chat says that sometimes there's a backlog of Tesla owners waiting to charge at a given location. How is that handled? I imagine that would be a problem, like on a holiday weekend, if everybody's on the, you know, interstate highway at the same time. I think that with the new Tesla Superchargers that are 350 kilowatts, that people aren't going to be spending too much time, you know, at these chargers getting loaded up.
No, and if you do if a driver does park their car at a charger and it knows when the charge is full and it notifies you on the phone. There's a phone app and it apprises you of how fast your battery is charging. And if you overstay your charge by more than a few minutes, you get dinged. They will fine you basically. So to get you out of there. The Dedham dealership does have a backup sometimes. You can't always get a slot there. But every other place that we've gone, and we've been to a lot of them, there might be one or two other cars, and we've never had any problem finding a space.
Yeah, I should also say that there was a software update that we got for the Tesla 3 between when we bought the car, which was last, what, September, Claire?
September. Mm-hmm.
September of 2019. And one of the updates that they did was that when you do your route planning, they will tell you on the route what they expect the visitation of Teslas to that particular charging station will be at the time that you're expected to get there. And they will tell you how long you think that they estimate that you'll wait. So basically they do the same thing that Google does. You know, Google will let you know, like if you go to a store go shopping in a store, how loaded the store will be in advance, because they keep track of how many people go into the store and so forth. So Tesla does that too in terms of how much utilization a particular charging place. And of course, it's not going to be exactly right. It's going to be approximate, but they'll give you an idea and you can choose and say, oh, that place is going to be really busy. Let's not go there. Let's go some other route and charge someplace else. But that's on the screen.
I'm just curious if how many people are actually serious about buying an electric car soon.
I have a pre-order in for the Rivian.
Oh, wow. The pickup. Sure.
Wow, cool.
When's the expected delivery date?
Unfortunately, it wouldn't be until January of 2022 because I wanted the 400 plus mile battery pack. If I wanted the 300 mile battery pack, it would be June of next year.
Wow.
So that'll get you up to your place in New Hampshire.
Exactly.
Nice. Anyone else serious about buying an electric car in the near future?
I'm thinking about it. I haven't decided. I don't know enough about them to make the purchase yet. I was wondering, like, is it like buying in a regular car where you go in and like, you know, you negotiate prices, or it's just, that's what it is?
Not with the Tesla. Tesla, it is what it is.
With the Chevy, you can negotiate. By the way, if you have a Costco
I
membership,
do.
then they offer incredible deals right now. If you're a Costco member, you can get even more money off a Chevy Volt. But it's definitely negotiable. I mean, they will deal a little bit.
And
Tesla's-
Peter, how did you decide what you were going to get for PM? Did you both go and look at it? And how did you decide to buy what you bought? I mean, I already know the Tesla. I like that. My friend has one.
Well, for me, the Tesla is just too much money. I saw the ad that Quirk was offering one for, I think it was $150 a month for the lease. And I thought, geez, that's a great deal. Of course, by the time you pay all the other stuff, it's up to $200. But to me, it was
Pretty good.
two things made me decide. One is I just wanted to stop buying gasoline. I ride a bike most days to school. So most of the gasoline was to cart Pam back and forth to Needham and Roach Brothers. So we didn't need the sophistication of a Tesla. I mean, I would love to have a Tesla, but I just couldn't justify spending that much money. So the price I thought was in line with what I was willing to spend. And then again, I really just wanted to stop buying gasoline. And certainly the $2,500 rebate from state of Massachusetts was pretty good incentive. That took care of the first year's payments, basically. Plus, currently we have a $3,500 credit with Eversource because we generate more electricity than we consume. So basically, we'll have free fuel for this. We won't have to pay for the electricity to run it. So from a financial standpoint, it made sense. You know, we spent, I don't know, a couple $100 a year on maintenance and oil changes and stuff like that. So financially, I just thought it made sense. Environmentally, it made sense. And I teach environmental science at Norfolk Aggie. We talk a lot about climate change and reducing CO2 emissions and electrifying everything. So I want to be able to walk the talk with my
Good for you.
So that's part of the reason for us buying it.
It looks like Shiva is waiting for a car. What kind of a car did you get? Would you be interested in telling us what you got and how you decided on it?
Yes, so I'm getting a Model Y.
Ooh,
And yeah, so for me, there were two factors. And I was driving a Mini Countryman plug-in, and I decided to go full electric, but I also wanted an all-wheel drive, and I wanted something that would seat a little bit higher from the ground. I'm very short, so Model 3 didn't work for me. So that's why I waited for the Model Y, and I decided to go with that.
awesome. Well, that's really exciting. Is that the one with the gull wings?
No, no. This
Okay,
is
that's the
a slightly beefed up version of Model 3.
okay. Well, I think you're gonna love it.
Thank you.
And having it high is good. When we first got the car, we went to Westwood Day like the week we got it, and we had to park in a bumpy parking lot at the church, and we bottomed out. We were like, oh my God. That was, so it's definitely not an off-road vehicle.
Yeah.
But it didn't do any damage. I mean, that battery case is, hard as a rock.
Yeah, that's a very solid plate. There is a video on YouTube, actually a couple of videos that is all about Tesla's batteries and how they make them and stuff. And I learned an awful lot about that. They capture all the heat from the battery, and that's what they use to heat the cabin. Basically, from the battery discharging, and it's glycol, some sort of glycol and water solution that they pump between the battery things to do that. So it's amazing.
The Model Y actually has a heat pump system for heat and air conditioning, whereas the Chevy Volt just uses, electric resistance heating, which is nowhere near as efficient. The Model Y is just an amazing car. They've really made a lot of good improvements above and beyond the Model 3. It's got a one-piece casting for the rear drive, which simplifies manufacturing. Just a lot of great improvements. They just keep getting better and better. I'd love to get a ride in your Model Y if you.
You're welcome. Once we get past COVID, everybody is welcome. I do have a quick question. Can I ask a question?
Of course.
Claire, I think you mentioned you went with the Siemens home charger. As I'm getting a new one, I'm actually a little conflicted as to what the options are, because I also hear that people go with a 1450 outlet versus a Tesla charger versus a charge point and other options. Are there any recommendations that you have?
I have no idea. Jan is probably more schooled in that, and Pete too, than I am.
Yeah, so I'm just talking from the perspective of the Tesla. Our Siemens charger is fine, and we would not. I mean, I at least mused about the idea. Well, is it worth taking out the Siemens and replacing with a Tesla charger? And I decided no. One thing, however, that's been teased in the Tesla, there's a big Tesla community of people online that just basically rant and rave how great their Teslas are and stuff like that. So they're biased like me. But one thing that's interesting is one of the software updates that we got recently in the past 2 months is a software update that allows the Tesla 3 to communicate with a Tesla battery if you have one in your home. And what they do now is that they can coordinate when the Tesla 3 charges in terms of times and depending on what the level of the battery is. So between that and how much is drawing from the grid and other places, they will actually be able to talk to each other by wireless to coordinate that. And everybody in the Tesla community is wondering that if you have a Tesla home, supposing you have a Tesla Model 3 and a Tesla battery and a Tesla solar panels, and perhaps even if you don't have a Tesla home, is it possible that someday you're going to be able to tap into the battery of the Tesla to power your house? And that might be something that might be facilitated with a Tesla charger. But that's something that we don't know anything about yet. And I don't know what kind of regulations we need to have to allow that to happen, if any, and so forth.
Thank you. Yeah, that's too future in for me.
I ended up buying the juice box. All I did was Google best EV chargers, and it came down to two different ones. One was, I think, Charge Point, and the other was this juice box. It's made by Enel. And they rated it higher than the Charge Point, mainly because of the app. There's an app for your phone where you can program it and monitor all kinds of stuff. Basically, you can program it so it charges like at 1 a.m. or anytime you want. It doesn't, for I guess a couple reasons. One is it's better environmentally if you charge off peak. And in some parts of the country, not necessarily here, I guess in Massachusetts, that it can be cheaper if you charge off peak, like in the middle of the night. So these apps allow you to program that. And so we haven't actually taken advantage of it yet. We just wait for a sunny day and then plug it in, so that we're taking advantage of the direct from the solar panel. But so far, I'm happy with the charger. It seems to work fine. I can't say that we've had any problems. Wiring it in was simple. I actually put a meter. That's one thing I would suggest, is if you have it installed, put a separate sub meter on it so you can keep track of how much electricity you're actually consuming by the electric car. It's cheap. It's only, it shouldn't cost much extra just to put that meter in.
Tesla will tell you, your car will tell you how much energy you consume. It'll tell you everything, right, Jan? It's a computer on wheels. That's so.
It's actually for computers on wheels, but I'm being
Excuse me.
pedantic here. Pedantic. Yeah.
And we too power it with our solar too. So go ahead, Jan.
Yeah, no. So one of the things that we got when we added our second solar array on is we bought a part of the package, which is the Sense. It's a little box that plugs into the main of the house, and it monitors what all your appliances are and things like that. And it uses a little neural network to sort of recognize the signatures of the different appliances in the house, and eventually it learns them. And it very quickly recognized that there was this EV in the house. And in fact, it knows that it's a Tesla now, that it figured that out. So if I want to know how much from the house's perspective the electricity is being used, I just use that now. And that also will tell you, it also monitors our solar generation, which, you can, for any solar things, you can monitor probably typical solar places, you can monitor about 2 or 3 different ways as well.
So, and I'd like to put in a plug too, if I assume, maybe I'm erroneous, but I assume that people are interested in EVs, not just for performance, but to get off the gasoline. And if that's the case, we will hopefully by spring have community electricity aggregation here in Westwood, where if you're on basic service now for your electric bill, you can purchase, you'll be automatically switched over to a power purchase agreement that the town is making. We're waiting on the DPU right now, Department of Public Utilities, but there will be options for 50% and 100% renewable on that. So if you don't have your own solar panels on your house, that's one way to do it. We do have to build out our renewable infrastructure, though, in order to supply all the demand that's going to be happening because of this. So just a couple of plugs for reducing our electricity and our gasoline emissions.
Is that a pun?
Not intended, but thank you. Yeah, I meant to say that I'm being really funny, and I notice everybody's laughing really hard. Does anybody else have any comments or questions or want to share anything? Well, this has been a very informative talk, Pete. I learned a lot, and I thought I knew most of it, but I wasn't up to date. So that was really a well-researched and well-done presentation. And oh, Virginia, do you have something you'd like to ask?
No, I was just going to thank everybody. I thought that was great.
Okay. Well, why don't I let you take on the league, you know, wrap up thing? Would you like to do that?
No, I'm not sure what the league wrap up thing is.
Okay. Yeah, Marcia usually handles these things. So
I know we say something about the league, but I really don't know what it is.
No, I forgot my script. It didn't occur to me till I started that, oh yeah, this is a league thing. I should have had my little spiel prepared. But so I riffed, and probably not that well. But Pete, I really appreciate all the work you do for the environment in general and the great example that you set. And thank you all for joining us this evening. I hope everybody is on electricity and driving on sunshine in the next few years. And on behalf of the League of Women Voters, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
for your
Pete.
effort. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Night.
Have fun with your EVs, everybody.
Bye-bye. Thank you.